Welcome to Cooking with the Keefes. I'm Patrick Keefe.
I'm Jen Keefe.
And we're here to cook some of our favorite fall items just for you. Today we're making, what are you making, Jen?
So for dessert, I'll be making a Cran apple crisp. So a little bit of a twist on your regular apple crisp. And we'll talk a little bit about the differences between a crisp and a crumble and a cobbler and all those fun things.
Is there a bumble or anything like that? Or a brimble?
No, I don't know what you're talking about.
Okay, well, and I'm making I'm making a walnut or nut encrusted salmon with a fall farro salad. Some of my favorites, and I know Jen and I, and we really, all of our friends, we really enjoy grain types of salads because you can make them for any season. So I'm going to show you some different ways you can make it, certainly for fall, and then maybe some adjustments you can make throughout the year. So we're going to have that.
Take it away, Pat.
All right, so we're going to start off. You see in front of us, we have a lot of the ingredients laid out on the table. We have some Scottish salmon, some really nice cuts filleted for. You can get Scottish salmon, or you can also get Atlantic salmon right at Market Basket, Whole Foods, or of course our favorite fish market, Pines River Fish Market, right in Revere. So feel free to get that. Norwegian salmon is very good as well. Scottish is probably a little bit fattier, has a little bit more of that nice full salmon flavor. People get people get a little nervous with salmon because they say it tastes fishy. Most good salmon really shouldn't taste fishy. Obviously, if it starts to age, everything starts to taste a little different. But I love the flavor of salmon, and it's so healthy for you. Lots of omega fatty acids, really good for you. If you don't like the skin, take it off. Give it to your dog. It's really good for their coat.
It is.
And they love it. So we're going to start off with that and some farro salad. So I just want to show you, first off, how we're going to make the nut crust so I can get the salmon in the oven, and then how I'm going to cook farro. So farro is a grain. You can get it in all grocery stores, different brands. It's like an Italian wheat. And what you do is we're going to take this farro. It doesn't have a lot of flavor. What I love about farro, also called spelt, is it has great texture. All right, and it has a chewy nuttiness. So you can really we're going to use this pot here actually. I'm going to cook it. You can cook it just like you would brown rice. You can really boil it. It's very forgiving. It's hard to overcook. It just keeps sprouting. And you can cook it with lots of different liquids. So today, because I'm cooking with salmon, I'm going to use a vegetable broth. So I just got some simple vegetable stock over at the grocery store. And you want to cover it good. It's not going to absorb all the water. It's going to cook, like I said, similar to a brown rice or a mix between brown rice and pasta. It is a wheat, so it's not gluten-free. We'll season that a little bit as well. If you don't have vegetable stock, or if you don't want to buy vegetable stock, you can probably cook this in just plain water with a couple onions and some carrots, and that'll give it some vegetable flavor. So I'm going to throw a few sprigs of thyme, and then I'm just going to crack a little. Scallions right over the top, and I'm just going to kind of forget that and let it cook
on high.
Yep, cook it on high. Yeah, there you go. We'll top that off, and then when you take it off the stove, it'll absorb a lot of liquid. If it doesn't absorb it all, that's fine. It's going to come out, and it's going to look something like this. It's going to be a chewy, almost like a wheat berry. Okay, very similar. It'll have a chewy texture, and again, it takes on what you dress it with or what you incorporate into it. But I love that texture, and it really adds to make a really special dish. So this is 3 cups of cooked farro, and right there that was 3 cups of 2 cups of raw farro. It almost doubles in size when you cook it. Okay, so I can get the salmon started. I want to make the nut crust, and I'm going to take some pistachios. I know pistachios are a little pricey, so.
I was actually going to mention this when I was doing my baking segment, and you're going to be using some pecans, I think, too.
Yep.
A really great place to get nuts is Costco, is where I get a lot of ours.
Get them in bulk?
They really are. You get a little bit more, but they're really easy to keep in the freezer. So if it's something that you bake with, you cook with, they're definitely worth it. I feel like you get so much more for such a better price, and it's something that they keep for quite a while as long as you store them correctly.
So here we have 2 cups of nuts. I would use any types of tree nuts. The only ones I really wouldn't use are peanuts, which of course are different. They're more of a legume. I don't like the flavor that peanut adds to this dish. So I have pistachios, I have walnuts, and I have pecans. All right, and I'm just going to crush them up. All right, you see over here. And we're going to make a little bit of a nut crust. You can use a food processor as well. I just wanted to get some aggression out. And I always tell you, you don't want to crush them up too much because I like to know what nuts are in there. And that's pretty good. So again, you can use a food processor and pulse it up a little bit. So we got some pistachios. We have 2 cups of nuts, mixed nuts. I use, again, pistachios, walnuts, and pecans. And I'm going to use about a half a cup of breadcrumbs. I used panko breadcrumbs. They call it Japanese breadcrumbs. They're just really dry, plain crumbs. And the reason I use pankos is you don't want to incorporate too much flavor. You just need a little something to add a little extra crunch and kind of keep the texture together. I'll keep that. I'm going to add a little bit of chopped parsley for some color. And I'm going to add a little of that into the salad as well. So just a little bit. I don't want it to be overly green, but I just want to give it a little color. Again, if you have a food processor, you can put everything right in the food processor. Okay. And that's pretty much our crust. So what we're going to do is we have this wonderful salmon right here. Nice, beautiful. This is Scottish salmon. Really good. Yeah. And I'm going to take a little whole grain mustard. So I like to use ingredients when I make a dish. I like to use a lot of the similar ingredients throughout. So first we're going to take our salmon and we're just going to season it a little bit. Always salt and pepper all your product. Even if you're adding different ingredients onto it, I always like to give it a little extra flavor. Okay? People always say, why does it taste better in a restaurant? Because they season everything in a restaurant, and that's really what the secrets are. So I'm going to take just a little whole grain mustard. If you don't like mustard, no worries. Don't use mustard. You can use a little bit of butter, or you can use something else. If you don't like whole grain mustard, I love whole grain mustard. You can use Dijon mustard. You can use, I wouldn't use yellow mustard though. I would use something with a little bit more flavor.
Could you use like a mayo or something like
You could
that?
definitely, yeah, actually, you know what? It's good question. Mayonnaise is actually a pretty good little binder too. It adds some good fat and it adds a little flavor, but I like the mustard. It really gives it nice flavor. And you're going to taste that later on. We're going to use this mustard in our dressing as well. So we got our seasoned fish. We got a nice crumb. Put it right over the top. If you wanted to, you can put this in a pan and just kind of, and you can push the salmon right on top of the, there.
Some of the kinds of nuts you could use, I was wondering, because I'm a fan of hazelnuts. I don't know if that's something
Hazelnuts
you could
work
use.
really good. All right, and you just want to press those down. So you're going to create a really nice nut crust. Okay.
I ask these questions hoping that maybe you guys have the same questions. And then that way.
Very common. So you see how Farro is already starting to come to a boil? It's probably going to be about 20 minutes on a slow boil.
And you shouldn't stir this at all?
No, you don't really. You honestly don't need to do much to it at all. It's very easy to cook. And again, it's very forgiving. So I'm going to take just a little olive oil and drizzle it right over the top. All right. And one thing I'm going to do as well is just add a little water to this pan because I don't want it to burn, and I want to kind of create almost a little bit of a steam action. Oh. If you wanted, you could use a little bit of that veggie broth as well. So you can see I put about a quarter cup of water on the bottom of that pan, and that'll help from the nuts burning. And we're going to put this right in the oven. We're putting it in at 375 for about 15 to 20 minutes, depending on how long you like your salmon cooked or how much you like your salmon cooked. So we're going to get to the farro salad. All right. As mentioned, we're going to bring back that mustard. So we're going to make a pretty classic vinaigrette. I'm going to use whole grain mustard. I love the flavor of it. Use about a quarter cup. We're going to use a half a cup of apple cider vinegar. Okay. And I'm going to use a pretty classic ratio. So most classic vinaigrettes are 3 parts oil to 1 part vinegar or whatever acid-based component it is. It could be some sort of a citrus juice. So most classic French vinaigrettes are 3 to 1. So I'm going to use about just a little over 2 cups of olive oil I'm going to mix olive oil and canola oil because sometimes when you're making dressings, too much olive oil is just too potent. As you know, it's peppery, it's got a little bite to it. So I'm going to use half canola and half olive oil. So I'm going to use about a cup. And Jen, that you can see that's...
Yeah, you need me to turn it down?
Yeah, you can just turn it down to like a medium cook.
Sure.
All right. Cup of olive oil, cup of canola oil. And this isn't going to be a fully emulsified. The mustard does help bind it. And then we're going to add about a cup of olive oil. So right now this is going to be a pretty sharp dressing. And you're saying, well, what's making it fall like? The apple cider vinegar is certainly going to give it some of that fall flavor. But here's the secret. It's going to be a maple sage vinaigrette. And that's going to really add lots of flavor. So I have, you can use straight maple syrup. This is a bourbon barrel aged maple syrup.
You can actually get it at Williams-Sonoma.
Yeah, they have this at Williams-Sonoma. It's not the cheapest. It's probably about $20 for this bottle, but it's so good.
Every penny.
And you don't need a lot. I'm only going to add about a quarter of a cup. Okay? And it's going to add a good sweetness to it, and it's going to add sweetness to that farro salad.
I feel like that bourbon will give a little smokiness and
right?
Really good.
And then we're going to add some sage because what doesn't say fall like sage, you know? So we're just going to take sage. You can buy it at all the grocery stores. And just going to do a little chiffonade here.
What's that mean?
So chiffonade is a thin slice. What you do is you can take the leaf, you can roll it up, and then slice it, and it has a nice little thin slice like that. It's a chiffonade. These fancy French terms we're all using here. You can also just do a rough chop if you don't want to get too fancy with the terminology. So we're going to add some sage into the dressing. And this is a great dressing that you can really put on any type of salad. All right?
Could you use a dried sage if you have that hanging around the house, or not really?
Yes, you could definitely use dried sage. It's definitely going to have some good flavor. It's not going to be as nice as fresh sage, but it will do the trick. All right? We got a little black pepper, a little salt. You get some regular salt there?
I got some kosher salt from the house.
So this looks like it's sea salt in a fine salt container. I don't think it's coming out.
Yeah,
nope.
I was going to say, we need more salt.
We're going to work on that. So we're going to take a little bit of that salt, and you see that nice dressing. And of course, we'll taste that. We got a nice spoon over here to make sure it tastes good. Jen?
Yep.
Will you be my official taste tester?
Oh, if I have to.
Tell me what you think.
It's really good. Delicious. Thank you.
Right? So the sweetness of the maple syrup is going to balance the acidity of the vinegar, and it's going to go really well. So there's your dressing. Here's this farro. What we're going to do is we're going to add about a cup. You can add more. It's what you like. Okay? We're going to add about a cup and a half of dried cranberries. You can use dried cherries. You can use dried apricots. You can use you can use raisins, golden raisins. You can use any type of dried fruit. And it's going to really, again, it's going to add a little bit of sweetness to the whole dish. All right, and cranberries or cherries, really nice. We're going to take some of those pistachios. I'm not crushing them up. I'm going to take about a half a cup of pistachios right in there. I'm going to take a little bit of scallion. And I want some oniony component in this, but I don't want it to be too assertive with raw onion or garlic or anything like that. So I'm just going to take some green onions, which are a little bit more mild. If you were going to use onions or red onions, I would recommend cooking them down a little bit first, or grilling them or charring them. So we're just going to add about a quarter cup of green onion. You can use chives as well. Yeah, I got a couple more pistachios. Let's add them right to it. Andrew's going to be excited. So it's nice that we haven't done a show in a little bit.
Yeah,
right?
It's been a little bit. Yeah.
Right. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. It's been a little bit. One of the good reasons is working in the restaurant industry. It's kind of getting back to normal for us. But as you probably heard, there's a huge staffing crisis out there.
Yeah.
So it's been really difficult to find staff, and I know that we've had some great chefs in here. Chef Kelly doing an awesome job, works in the hotels, and I know we saw the hostess, and there's been a couple other chefs in here. So it's great to see the use, the Riviera community getting some use and showing us your cooking skills. But we've just been so crazy. working in the restaurants that I haven't really had a lot of opportunity to do much extra on the fun side. This is fun.
This is the
we
fun
enjoy
side.
doing this. We enjoy doing this for you.
Yeah, we love doing this. I love sharing recipes. It's something I know Patrick really enjoys, and I think we both like to teach too, and just share what we know. And so yeah, I'll take that.
So we put that dressing right in that salad, and this is gonna take it all in. All right. So, and when you make this, I'm gonna put a little more salt and pepper in there.
So day before, do you think it's better to sit in the fridge?
I think it's better to make early the day of, and let it soak it up a little bit. Sometimes it'll soak up a little bit. It'll soak it all up, and you have to refresh it a little bit. Yep. So don't be afraid to make a little more of that dressing, and use it later on. As a matter of fact, I should have reserved a little because I could have put some right on top of the salmon as well.
Yep.
But we're gonna garnish that with a little citrus. All right. So this is gonna add. This is this is a great Thanksgiving. Kind of room temperature side dish. You don't want to serve this ice cold. You want to let this sit out for just about a half hour, take the chill out of it, and serve it room temperature would be best. You can add feta cheese to this. You can add goat cheese to this. You can add blue cheese to this.
Oh, goat cheese.
So blue cheese and goat cheese would go really well in this.
Yeah.
Another thing that I like to add sometimes is roasted squash. So you can take some roasted, many different
butternut squash.
Butternut squash.
Yep.
You can take
acorn squash.
Acorn squash. You
Yep.
can, all of them. You can put them in there, and this will take on that squash really well. So there's that right there, and we have the salmon in the oven, so that's good. We're going there. We got the salad. Do you want to taste it, honey?
Do I? I need another spoon.
Get another tasting spoon. We should just keep these out, right?
Yeah, right?
We won't reuse them.
No double dipping.
No double dipping.
All right.
All right.
I liked what you said earlier about the apricots. I'm thinking that would be an awesome addition.
And I love we love dried fruits, so it's really good. So this is going to go with the salmon. So to complement that salmon, we got the nice buttery salmon. We have a wonderful salad. We're going to make a little bit of kale, a little just sauteed kale. So if you could turn that up a little bit. All right. And we're just going to lightly chop up some of this onion. So kale, is it confusing to you? I don't know. It's such a great dish. It's such a great vegetable. It's loaded with lots of nutrients, and it's healthy for you. And you don't have to do a whole lot to it. Some people get nervous because it can be a little fibrous. This is Tuscan Kale, which I think is a little bit less, has a little less texture in it, but it's really nice. So I went to the grocery store and I already cleaned it. You want to take out that middle vein. So you can just pull it right down and pull the full leaves right off the stem. So you want to try and remove as much of the stem as possible. And you see this is just big leafy greens of kale. And you have to really keep an eye on the kale that you get, making sure that doesn't have a lot of dirt in it, especially closer to the roots, especially closer to the base where it's growing in the ground. So this was already rinsed, and you want to rinse it well, and you want to let it dry off, because when you go to cook it, if it's full of water, it's not going to get any sear. It's going to just kind of steam. And nothing's worse than like steamed cabbage or steamed kale. So you want to try and get a bit of a high heat on it. So we're going to turn that up as much as we can.
This is all the way up.
And we're just going to lightly saute it. I'm going to rough chop it so it sautés up, and we're going to serve that with our salmon.
I can't wait.
It's so good, right? So good.
And I'm not usually a big salmon fan. I'm not going to lie. But
and if you don't like salmon, you know what goes really. First of all, you can use pretty much chicken. For anything, that.
There you
but
go.
Chicken, this pistachio and walnut encrusted chicken would go good. It would also go
like?
pork chop.
Pork chop.
Right?
I was just going to say a pork chop would be my
you
favorite.
can do the same thing with the pork chop. I was going to actually do it with the pork chop, but I wanted to show some people some fish. I mean, people ask, "Oh, you work with a lot of seafood, huh? How come you haven't cooked a lot of fish here?" Well, as you remember, this show started. This show kind of started. We started doing this cooking really at home.
Out of quarantine, yeah.
So we did do a bunch, and it was nice that we kind of partnered up with the Revere Council on Aging and the Senior Center doing some cooking shows, really to help give some people some good TV content. So I was trying to do more of what everyone likes. Everyone likes chicken. Everyone likes different types of meat. Seafood sometimes can be a little bit of an acquired taste. But so how's that farro coming along?
It's looking good. I think it needs a little bit more. Right. It still looks a little al dente, a little.
It's really close. But yeah, she's right. It's going to probably just take another minute or two. But you see how much flavor it picked up? It's picking up the herbs. It's picking up the vegetable stock really nicely. So farro salad's good. A little orange zest on top of it. We're going to saute this kale. We're going to get a little olive oil in that pan.
Here, I'm going to scooch out of the way so you can do your thing.
Right? Well, we're going to pour that right over there. You're going to help here.
Oh, do I have to?
Yeah, why not?
I'm the baking person. I'm the person that bakes.
No, you're doing a good job.
All right.
How's the salmon coming along?
I don't know.
Let's take a look.
How long does it usually take? It actually looks pretty
I'd say it needs a couple more minutes. All right.
This is another really quick, easy dinner for, you can make this the morning of. The fish takes how long to bake? 20 minutes?
Max.
Max 20 minutes. So it's really convenient. This is great for company. I think, and again, where it's adaptable to, you can make it with pork or chicken or fish, cater to your audience.
We'll just increase that temp just a little bit.
In the oven?
Yeah.
There you go.
All right, I turned it up. I always cook on super high heat. It's just the nature of me. So while we're cleaning this, what are you making today, Jen?
So I'm doing a Cran apple crisp.
Smoking it.
I just wanted to do something nice and fall, something that was quick, easy, something that would use ingredients that everyone has, but I didn't want to just do an apple crisp. So I kind of actually made up this recipe last night. I did try it out. It is delicious, but it incorporates actually a lot of the same flavors that Patrick is using in his dish, so it'll be very complimentary. So fresh cranberries, orange zest, some orange juice, pecans, oatmeal, or I should say oats in the crust. And again, like I said, we're going to talk a little bit about the differences between crisps and crumbles and all of that, so that you guys know.
Well, I think for the layman, for someone like me that's not as good a baker as you are, a crisp is a lot less intimidating than a pie because the crust.
Yes,
right?
It's, you don't have to do a bottom crust. And I had told Patrick I kind of wanted to do a pie for today, but maybe we'll do that next time. I do want to show you guys how to make a pie crust. It is not scary, at least I don't think so. It's really simple, and I think it would be something that would be great. I'll probably talk a little bit about it on my Instagram page, and definitely follow me and Patrick because we post stuff all the time about food. But I'm probably going to do a little bit of a pie tutorial and show you guys some stuff like that. But
also, Revere TV getting all these celebrity type chefs. We're getting some good. You're just seeing how creative and talented the residents of Rivera. Obviously Jen is an unbelievable baker. Kelly is a chef of a major hotel corporation in Boston. Not to talk about myself, but I work for a pretty large restaurant organization. So you got some serious talent, and there's some big time hospitality talent in the city of Revere, as we know. And I'm making a mess, but
it's like being at home.
So I want to challenge. So I'm going to say it out there because someone who has not, I don't think, has been on this show. Director of Inspections, Mike Wells. I know he likes to watch the show, and I know he's a chef. Well,
are you throwing it down, Patrick?
I'm not throwing it down against him. No, this isn't a competition. I mean, come on, let's be real. We're not going to go into a competition. But Mike Wells is a very talented chef. He worked in the restaurant industry for many, many years.
Yep.
Before he jumped on with the Inspectional Services Department in Revere.
And I like following him on Facebook.
He does a nice job. He does a very nice job. Some of his food is very
yummy.
good. So we got to get Mike Wells. We want to keep pulling that talent out and keep showcasing it on the Revere TV channel so that everyone can see. There's lots of great ethnic foods out there. I know that we had, I think, the Colombian Institute out here doing some food.
Yeah.
So it's really nice. We want to see all those ethnicities as well. So Mike does a lot of Italian cooking. And everything he puts out there looks delicious. So we want to see what he has. So this is the kale, and as you can see, you can turn that off, honey. So the kale's done. I mean, you just need to wilt it down. You don't want to overcook it. You could. It's very forgiving, but you just need to wilt it down, and it is done. Season it well. Kale needs a good amount of salt, or like I said, you can use garlic, or you can use some sort of onions, and that way you're cooking it. And then I'm just going to pull it off. We're going to pull it right off the heat here.
Oop, you got it.
And we'll do a plating. Here is the farro, just so you can see how easy that was. We didn't even have to really watch it. We looked at it. The farro is done. You can strain that, and you can cool it down. Just like that. And this is great. You know what I love about farro is you can use this in a hot or a cold application, kind of like a barley. You can put this in soup. You can put this in many different types of dishes. So we would just kind of strain this and cool it down. Or if you want, it'll continue to soak up. You can put this right in a cooler and cool it down. I don't like rinsing my pastas or wheats because you're really rinsing all the good flavor away. So if you're going to strain it, just strain out the extra liquid. Don't rinse it, all right? And that's a good hint for even pasta salads. If you can avoid rinsing your pasta, you're going to keep so much more of the good starches and the good flavors on it.
Yeah.
So we'll just set this aside because we already had a batch made ahead of you. We'll go take a look at the salmon here. And then Jen's going to get started on her dish.
Yeah, what can I pull away? Is there anything you still need over
Pretty
here?
much, you can kind of push all this stuff away except for the oil meat.
Okay.
Right? So let me take a look at the salmon. We're probably at about medium to medium, probably right around medium, which is what I like, right? So we're good there. Medium's going to be a little bit of pink in the middle, but not much. Salmon's already pink, but it's not going to be dried through, right? You can cook it a little bit more. So I'll plate a couple, and then I'll cook a little bit more just for maybe Andrew or Bob if they're chasing out there. I'll plate a nice one.
Will
for
the salmon keep cooking over, like as you take it out, it'll carry over
Absolutely.
a little bit, right?
The salmon will continue to cook. So we're going to plate a nice one here. We're going to just need a lemon and an orange. Okay.
Orange or lemon, both?
A
little bit of both?
Yeah, why not?
There you go, go nuts.
We're going to put some of that kale. So here's the secret with the orange, right? So you got this nice kale. It's got some nice chewiness to it, but it needs a little zip. So this is my secret. I like to drizzle a little bit. You're going to like this as a snack. This is a good healthy snack. Just a little bit of lemon juice right over the kale. Okay? We're going to take some of that farro. And that zip's going to be really nice. Right over the top. I'll take a piece of salmon.
Do I have to bake now or can I eat?
You can eat. You're going to try this. So we'll get a little more orange. A little more orange zest. Get some flavor.
And going back to what Patrick said earlier, why is it better in the restaurant? Because they do the extra zest at the end.
Hold on.
A little bit of salt, more
We're
pepper.
not done yet.
A little drizzle of olive oil.
We're going to take a little bit of apples, and we're going to do some matchsticks on top. Matchsticks. Do I have to explain that one, Jen?
No, that's
Julienne,
that's pretty self-explanatory.
Fine Julienne. Okay.
I was just testing you earlier. I just want to make sure you knew what you were talking about.
Little apple matchsticks, and then we'll do that drizzle of olive oil you talked about. Okay.
Pretty.
And there you have. We have a nutty salmon with a fall farro salad and sauteed kale. Okay? Hope you enjoy this dish. And if you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to Revere TV or email myself or, of course, Jen directly, and we'll help you out. Now, Jen is up with her dish.
It's my turn.
What are we cooking, Jen, again?
All right. So, again, Cran apple crisp. And we're going to start with the topping first. This is actually something that you could make ahead of time as well. Probably day before, a couple of days in advance if you needed to. And you can keep it in a little baggie in the refrigerator. Patrick, I'm just going to move your stuff out of the way. Don't mind me while I set up. I'm going to use a food processor because my crust won't come out as good if I smash it with a pan the way Patrick did. So, food processor, and you're only gonna do this for like a couple of seconds. Let me pull my recipe out. All right, so for the crust, you're gonna do a stick of butter, so 8 tablespoons of butter. Don't mind me while I grab it out of the freezer. You want it to be cold.
Why?
Now he's going to tease me. So you do want it to be cold because if it's warm or room temp or soft or melted, the crumble's not going to come out as good. It's not going to brown the right way in the oven. So I'm just going to cut it up into some chunks to give it a head start in the food processor.
Oh boy.
Then we've got 2/3 of a cup flour. And I know I do this every time I'm on here and every time I use flour, but sorry, I'm still getting used to what I'm doing over here, where all my stuff is. So 2/3 of a cup flour. Again, you're gonna not dip your cup into the actual flour. You're gonna make sure you scoop.
I always dip the cup in the flour. That's why I can't do this baking
No,
thing.
this is why he can't bake. But so for baking, you just want to be a little bit more exact. You don't want to overfill your flour cup. More flour is going to mean more dry and not good stuff. And then we're going to add in 3/4 of a cup brown sugar.
I get you.
Oh, sorry. And with the brown sugar, you're going to do 3/4 of a cup packed brown sugar. So I actually do stick the cup right in, and I just smash it kind of up against the side of the container.
I noticed on a lot of recipes they say packed brown sugar.
Packed brown
right?
sugar, yep.
Okay.
So
that's how you get the exact measurement.
Yep. There you go. And just dump that in there. Next is your oats. Patrick?
Do you have any preference? Here you go.
So old-fashioned oats, I love Quaker oats, obviously store brand, anything like that you have hanging around works. If you are gluten-free, this is actually a recipe that would very easily transition into a gluten-free recipe. You just got to check the oats to make sure that they're gluten-free. I know Bob's Red Mill makes a really good oat, and they very specifically
Is Quaker not?
Quaker is not gluten-free. I'm pretty sure this is not.
Yeah, okay.
So that's something you need to be careful with. So if you do have family members or if you have any dietary restrictions, obviously you'll know, or if you're baking or cooking for someone that does, it will say gluten-free right on the packaging if it is. So if it doesn't say that, chances are it is not. Then just a couple more things. 1/2 cup of pecans.
I stole some of our pecans.
He did.
I wanted on the salmon.
Well,
like I said,
now it's very complimentary,
you can use,
right?
Yeah, of course. You can use many different nuts.
All right.
You can add me. I'm a nut.
You are a nut. You are not wrong.
This is part-time comedy show here.
We're very entertaining. A teaspoon of cinnamon. You could probably even do a teaspoon and a half. I might actually do a little extra cinnamon.
A little extra cinnamon's good.
A little extra cinnamon. And again, totally your preference. Something else you could throw in here is a 1/4 teaspoon of ginger, ground ginger, a 1/4 teaspoon of nutmeg if you want a little bit more spice.
Nutmeg screams fall as well.
Yes.
Cinnamon and nutmeg.
I'm going to do a 1/2 teaspoon of salt in the crust as well. And that's it. Everything's just dumped into the food processor. And I'm just going to hope that this works because I did plug it in. And you're just going to pulse it.
I could have used that earlier.
You could have, but then it wouldn't have been clean for me and I'd be doing dishes and that would be annoying. But it was much more entertaining watching you beat the heck out of the nuts with a pan.
Yeah.
So here we go. You just want it to start looking like wet sand a little bit and give it a good pulse, and that's it. That's your crust. Nice and easy. So we're going to put that to the side. We don't need that quite yet. And we're going to do, here are my apples. Pat's moving stuff on me.
I'm moving it
All right,
right to
so I
you.
started already cutting these up because I didn't think it'd be very entertaining for you to have to sit here and watch me chop apples. So I have 3 Cortland apples in here and 1 Granny Smith so far, and I'm going to do a second Granny Smith. I mix up the type of apples I use when I'm baking because it gives different complexities of flavor. Granny Smiths are a little bit more tart, whereas a Cortland's a little bit more sweet. I also really like Cortland apples. They don't brown as easily. They tend to keep their nice white, bright color. And the Granny Smiths, kind of the same thing. They're a nice white, bright apple. Really crisp.
Smiths.
They're so good.
I like the tartness. Cortland's
and they're also
too.
a firm apple, so that you just want to watch when you're baking to get firm apples. Something that's not too sweet or too soft. And because generally when you're baking, you're going to add some sugar. So I've got 1 cup of fresh cranberries. These are just regular ocean spray cranberries that you get at the market basket. And
could you use dried if you really wanted to?
You can use dried, absolutely. I'm actually adding in another dry fruit element, which will be raisins. So if you're going to use dried craisins, I would mix the craisins with the fresh.
Right.
I think it's just a different flavor profile, different texture too. I love when you bake the cranberries, they start to pop and burst open and give you that balance of sweetness and tartness. So that is me. I'm also going to use golden raisins, which I find even people that don't like raisins, when you bake with golden raisins, it's not as offensive to them. They tend to like it, but I like the color and the texture of a golden raisin, and we're going to use a half cup of those. And again, this kind of a recipe, it's rough. You know, you don't have to be super exact with things like that. You like the extra raisins, throw a couple more in there. Then we're also going to add in 2/3 of a cup sugar, if you don't mind, Patrick.
I don't.
Thanks.
I'm here to help.
Thanks. You're a great sidekick. Just sprinkle that in there. Then we're going to add in 3 tablespoons of cornstarch, which I think is right behind me. And the cornstarch is going to help when the apples and everything start to bake and burst open. The corn, it's going to start to get soupy if you don't use some sort of a thickener. I actually was talking to Patrick about this, should I use cornstarch or flour? And he brought up a point that I think honestly in this particular recipe you could use either, because it does bake for like 45-50 minutes. So you could use flour if all you have is flour around, but I chose cornstarch because if the apples start to bake or your crust starts to brown and you have to pull it out sooner, you don't want to have to worry about the flour having to bake off.
And some of the science behind cornstarch and flour thickening is cornstarch, once you bring it to a boil, it starts to release that thickening agent. Where flour, it's going to cook a little bit longer so that it really starts to thicken and the flour starts to pull everything in. So I like, one of the few things I do like and know is cornstarch, it activates a little quicker.
Yes. So that's all it is. So that's 3 tablespoons of cornstarch, the sugar, all the fruits. I'm going to also use orange zest in here. A lot of apple crisp recipes you find will add like a lemon juice, but I think the orange is just more flavorful. I'm going to do zest of about half an orange. So about a teaspoon or half a teaspoon of orange zest, and that's it. Then I'm going to use the same orange. I'm just going to cut it open.
Never waste it, right?
Yep. And I'm going to just juice that.
Juice it in the reamer.
Yep. And once that's juiced, and about half a orange of juice, it's about a tablespoon, or it should be. Maybe a little extra. No big deal.
That was a juicy orange.
Yeah, it was. And these orange actually are really good. And I use navel oranges. Those are my favorite. And then you're just gonna toss these. Apples, I cut in about a 1/2 inch dice, just kind of chunky. You always, anytime you're cooking with fruit or baking with fruit, you wanna make sure you're cutting them all to approximately the same size so that you don't get like really mushy pieces and then really firm uncooked pieces. You want everything to bake nice and evenly in the oven, so keeping them the same size is somewhat important. So in this, you can see I also didn't peel my apples, so I'll talk about that for a second. A lot of recipes call for you to peel them, but I love the color, especially when you're using a couple of different color apples, and you eat the skin anyways, and it bakes down, and it adds good texture, good fiber, so that now you can eat this for breakfast and not feel guilty about it because you're getting fruit and fiber and oatmeal.
Ignore the sugar.
Yeah, no, don't even worry about it. It's no big deal.
Hey, if you're going to have sugar, have it early, right?
Yep. Get your day going. So, all right, there you go. So, no, now I'm making a mess. This is a 9.5 inch pie pan. So, between a 9 and a 10 inch pie pan, I just buttered it with about a tablespoon of soft butter. And then I'm just going to dump in my filling. And that's it. And this smells awesome, actually.
It does.
With the orange.
It looks so good. Look at the color.
Yes, I love it. I think it's so pretty. So this is, Patrick was saying, a good Thanksgiving side dish. This is a great Thanksgiving dessert and something that you can throw in.
You will be a hero.
Really fast.
Bring this to your friend's
house.
house.
You want to make sure you really get out all that zest and all that juice. Don't waste any of it. And get that all in there, all that sugar. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And now we go back to our crust. And you're gonna cover the entire top of your pie here. I guess you could call it a pie. It's in a pie dish, right?
Right.
And you're just gonna sprinkle this all over. You can see like the oatmeal, I keep calling it oatmeal, but the oats and the pecans all kind of meshed together. You don't have any big chunks. You can, if you don't have a food processor and you just want to rough chop everything and cut in the butter with a couple of forks or with a pastry blender, you can do that. It'll be a little bit more rustic and a little bit more chunky, but it's just going to give you a different texture, but same type of flavors. And
so Jen, I noticed you pack it down. Is that intentional?
Yep, I just pack it in there because
it makes like a real crust.
It makes like a crust, yeah, like an actual crust. So it'll get nice and firm, and this also will get nice and juicy and bubbly, so that'll, you know, kind of limit some of the juices from escaping. You want them in the pie, not on the bottom of the oven.
It's almost like a steam pocket.
Yes.
Awesome.
So.
See, I learned things.
Yep. Yep, I can teach him things too.
I'm a good student.
It's not the other way around only. So, and I'm just coming around and packing that all in there. Not to mention, this is very full, so I just want to get it all in there. All right, so that's it. You're going to leave it just like this. You could probably, like I said, make this a little bit in advance, throw some foil or something over it and stick it in the fridge and make it a little bit later.
If you go into someone's house, you can make it right before you go there, so you bring it warm.
Yeah, you really want to eat it warm. So I just don't want to waste any of this. Don't mind me. And when I bake this in the oven, I throw it on a sheet tray. That way, if anything does bubble up or boil over, it's not going to be in the bottom of your. So that's what it looks like. Nice and simple. Put that in the oven. Yep, stick that in there for me, and I'll show you guys kind of what it looks like. I made one last night to kind of try it out. And I'm just gonna rinse my hands. Patrick, would you mind just clearing that spot for me?
Not a problem.
And I'm sure a lot of you have been apple picking recently. So
we've seen the pictures.
Yep, so seen lots of photos, and I am sure that you have apples to use up. So whatever you got apple picking, you can use those. This was one that I made last night. We kind of scooped some out, and there you go.
So this goes with any fruit, right? You could do peaches.
Oh, peaches, apples. What else?
Fruits.
Yeah, plums would probably be really good too, but definitely any sort of fruits.
Straight berries, maybe.
You could just do like a mixed berry. You could do blackberries with strawberries and raspberries. Berries right now I find are delicious. And you can mix up, do lemon instead of orange. Make it the way you would want it. Use the ingredients that you already have. Don't go running up to the store to make something if you have something comparable in the house. So I did not get it. I'm very disappointed in myself, but you should really serve this with vanilla ice cream.
You have to.
I know. I should have gotten it so that we could do the whole display, but I totally forgot. But this served warm, and let's say you don't finish it all, zap it in the microwave. It's just as good the next day. Like I said, for breakfast the next morning.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable.
So here, we'll do this. I'll move this one out of the way.
And here's some of that.
Like this?
I would love it with some whipped cream or some nice vanilla bean ice cream.
Yes. Vanilla bean ice cream, fresh whipped cream, which is really easy to make at home.
So I wanted to show one of these here so you can see as well. This is that salmon. And as mentioned, and Jen, I know you're going to try here, but just so you can see the difference. So that's now that one is cooked through, and you can see the salmon just flakes apart. So that's cooked. That would be like a medium well, not overcooked, not well. It's cooked through. It's going to flake.
Still nice and
this one
juicy.
here probably cooked more of the medium, but we're going to have some nice lunch or some little dinner for everyone here. But I hope you enjoyed today. It's really quick and easy. Yeah. Some of your really nice fall favorites. And again, this is something very universal. Don't forget that farro salad if you're looking for any more hints on the recipe. It's a really great Thanksgiving side dish.
So easy, and any dinner side dish. It's so fast and simple.
Yeah. So when you entertain, and of course that crumble is something, what do you call it again? Crumble?
Oh, this is a crisp. Oh, I never went over that. So crisp, crumble. Crumble doesn't have oats.
No oats?
No oats in a crumble.
Just butter and flour?
Just butter, flour, sugar. You can do nuts in either a crisp or a crumble. It doesn't have to be, but really simple and straightforward. And then what was I going to say? What's the
I
other
don't
one?
know.
Oh, a cobbler is more of like
cobbler.
a biscuit topping, so gives you a little bit more dense.
I like the cobbler a little bit because you get those
Yes,
crunchy.
I knew Patrick would rather a cobbler. I think
No, I
he
like
likes
this
that
too.
like dense biscuit type with the fruit, and that would be good with ice cream too.
So again, if you're looking for any help, just feel free to send us a message. Send Riviera TV a message.
Yes.
We'll be happy to help you out. We'll come back and do another one before the next holiday season. Appreciate you watching on Riviera TV and have a great one.
Nice to see you guys.
Thanks for watching Cooking with the Keefes.
Bye.